When the cryogenic chamber hissed open on the research vessel Celestial Dawn, nobody expected the small woman inside to change the course of galactic diplomacy forever. Maya Chen had been frozen for 200 years, preserved during humanity's first desperate exodus from a dying Earth. She was supposed to be just another casualty of the old world, another human relic awakened only because the ship's automated systems had finally deemed it safe to revive the remaining sleepers. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The galaxy had moved on without Earth. Humanity now lived on 17 different worlds, scattered across 3-star systems, struggling to find their place among the hundreds of alien civilizations that dominated known space. Most humans worked in service industries, manual labor, or other jobs that more advanced species considered beneath them. They were tolerated, sometimes even appreciated, but never truly respected. Maya opened her eyes to a universe she didn't recognize, filled with beings she'd never imagined, speaking languages that existed only in translation algorithms. The woman who had once owned the most sought-after salon in downtown Los Angeles found herself surrounded by creatures with tentacles for hair, others with crystalline growths instead of skin, and some who seemed to shift between different forms entirely. The medical bay of the Celestial Dawn hummed with the soft blue glow of healing pods as Maya slowly sat up, her dark hair falling in waves around her shoulders. Dr. Sarah Kim rushed to her side, scanner in hand, checking vital signs with the efficiency of someone who had performed this routine hundreds of times over the past decade. "Easy there," Sarah said gently, her voice carrying the slight accent that marked her as one of the new Seoul colony children. "You've been asleep for a very long time. The year is 2387, and you're aboard a research vessel in the Kepler system." Maya's hands moved instinctively to her hair, fingers running through the strands as if to confirm she was still herself. 2 centuries of dreams flickered through her memory like half-remembered films. "My salon," she whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. "What happened to my salon?" Sarah's expression softened with the practiced compassion of someone who delivered this news regularly. "Earth is gone, Maya. Has been for over a century now. Solar expansion took most of the inner planets. But humanity survived. We're scattered across multiple worlds now, and we've learned to live among dozens of other species." The magnitude of loss hit Maya like a physical blow, but she was surprised to find that alongside the grief came something else: curiosity. She had always been fascinated by different textures, by the way light played across various surfaces, by the infinite possibilities of transformation. Even in her shock, she found herself studying the way the medical bay's lighting created subtle shifts in Dr. Kim's hair color. "Other species," Maya repeated slowly. "You mean aliens?" "We don't usually use that term anymore," Sarah explained, helping Maya to her feet. "But yes. The galaxy is more diverse than anyone on Earth ever imagined. Would you like to see?" Maya nodded, steadying herself against the medical pod. She wore the simple gray jumpsuit that all newly awakened sleepers received, but already her mind was working, imagining how different fabrics might drape, how colors might complement the various skin tones she was beginning to glimpse through the medical bay's transparent walls. As they walked through the ship's corridors, Maya's eyes widened at the incredible diversity of beings moving through the halls. A tall creature with skin like polished amber passed by, its hair consisting of thin tentacles that moved independently, each one a different shade of green. Behind it walked a being that appeared to be made entirely of living crystal, its faceted surface catching and refracting the corridor's lights into dancing rainbows. "The tall one is Vorthak," Sarah explained, noticing Maya's fascination. "They're from the Helix Nebula colonies. Their hair tentacles actually serve as secondary sensory organs, and the crystalline being is one of the resonance, from the harmony system. They communicate through light frequencies." Maya stopped walking, her professional instincts kicking in despite the overwhelming situation. "Their hair moves independently? Among the Vorthak? Yes, it's quite functional actually. Each tentacle can taste the air, detect electromagnetic fields, even sense emotional states in other beings through chemical signals. But does it serve any aesthetic purpose?" "Quote," Maya asked, her mind already racing with possibilities. "I mean, do they style it? Do they consider some arrangements more beautiful than others?" Sarah paused, looking puzzled. Honestly, I don't know. That's not something most humans think about. We're usually too busy trying to figure out how to communicate with them, or what services we can provide. Maya continued to stare at the retreating Vorthak, watching the graceful way its hair tentacles swayed and intertwined. There was something hypnotic about the movement, something that spoke to the part of her that had always seen hair as more than just protein strands growing from follicles. Hair was expression, identity, art in its most personal form. They entered the ship's main observation deck, and Maya gasped at her first view of space through the massive, transparent dome. Stars stretched endlessly in all directions, but it was the other ships that captured her attention. Vessels of impossible designs drifted nearby, some that looked like living flowers with petals that shifted and adjusted, others that resembled geometric sculptures that defied conventional physics. "The flower ship belongs to the Bloom Collective," Sarah explained. "They're one of the more artistic species we encounter. Very focused on aesthetics, but their beauty standards are completely alien to us. The geometric vessel is from the pattern weavers. They see mathematics as the highest form of art." Maya nodded absently, but her attention was drawn to something else entirely. Near one of the docking bays, she could see a group of humans in conversation with several alien beings. The humans looked tired, worn down in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. Their clothes were functional but unremarkable, their hair simply tied back or cut short for convenience. They moved with the careful, deferential posture of people who had learned to make themselves smaller. In contrast, the aliens around them seemed to radiate confidence and vitality. A group of beings with iridescent scales that shifted through the spectrum stood tall and proud, their natural coloring creating an almost hypnotic display. Nearby, creatures that resembled living art installations gestured with appendages that left trails of bioluminescent light in the air. "Why do the humans look so?" Maya struggled for the right word. "Diminished?" Sarah finished quietly. "Because that's what we've become in a way. Don't get me wrong. We're grateful to be alive, grateful to have found places in galactic society. But we're always the newcomers, always the ones trying to prove we belong. Most alien species have been traveling the stars for thousands of years. They have technologies, art forms, and cultural achievements that make human civilization look like children playing with blocks." Maya watched a human technician approach one of these scale-covered aliens, tablet in hand, clearly seeking approval for some routine maintenance task. The alien barely acknowledged the human's presence, its attention focused on what appeared to be a complex holographic sculpture floating nearby. "What do humans typically do?" Maya asked. "What's our role out here?" "Manual labor, mostly," Sarah admitted. "Technical support. Basic services. Things that require adaptability rather than advanced knowledge. Humans are good at improvising, at working in unpredictable conditions, but we're not known for innovation or artistry. The galaxy has species that specialize in those areas, and they've been doing it for millennia." Maya felt a familiar stirring, the same sensation she'd experienced whenever someone told her that a particular hairstyle was impossible or that a certain look wouldn't work. Throughout her career on Earth, she had built her reputation by taking on the challenges others avoided. The difficult hair textures, the unconventional color combinations, the clients who insisted they were hopeless cases. "Has anyone ever tried to understand alien aesthetics?" she asked. "Not just to appreciate them, but to work with them?" Sarah looked puzzled. "Work with them how?" "Beauty is universal," Maya said, her voice growing stronger as she found familiar ground. "It might express itself differently across species, but the desire to look good, to feel confident about appearance, that has to exist everywhere, right?" "I suppose," Sarah said slowly. "Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story." "But Maya, these aren't just different cultures we're talking about. These are completely different biological systems. Some of these beings don't even have what we'd recognize as hair or skin." Maya smiled for the first time since awakening, and Sarah was struck by how the expression transformed her entire demeanor. "That just makes it more interesting." Before Sarah could respond, an announcement echoed through the ship's communication system. The voice spoke in Standard Galactic, the common language used for interspecies communication. But the ship's translation system immediately provided a human-friendly version. "Attention all personnel. We will be docking with Harmony Station in 6 hours. All diplomatic staff report to briefing rooms for final preparation. This is a critical negotiation for human representation in the Outer Rim territories. Sarah's expression grew tense. I should explain what's happening. The ship isn't just carrying awakened sleepers. We're actually on a diplomatic mission. Humanity is trying to gain representation in the Galactic Congress, which would give us a voice in major decisions affecting our colonies. But it's not going well. They walked toward the briefing rooms, passing more groups of humans and aliens. Maya noticed that even in mixed groups, there seemed to be an invisible barrier between humans and other species. Conversations happened, but they felt formal, transactional. The problem, Sarah continued, is that most galactic species don't see humans as having anything unique to offer. We're adaptable, yes, but so are dozens of other species. We're persistent, but that's not exactly rare either. For Congress representation, we need to demonstrate that humanity brings something distinctive to galactic civilization. Through an open doorway, Maya caught a glimpse of the briefing in progress. Ambassador Patricia Vance stood at the front of the room, her graying hair pulled back in a severe bun, gesturing at a holographic display showing the political structure of the Galactic Congress. Around the table sat a dozen humans, all looking variations of tired and desperate. Our best offer right now is agricultural expertise, Ambassador Vance was saying. Humans have proven adaptable at food production on marginal worlds. But 3 other species already fill that niche more efficiently. What about our entertainment industry? Suggested Commander Torres, a man whose prematurely lined face spoke of too many disappointments. Music? Literature? Visual arts? The Harmony species have been creating art for 50,000 years, replied Dr. Martinez, the mission's xenocultural specialist. The Dreamweavers literally paint with thoughts and emotions. How do we compete with that? Maya found herself leaning closer to listen, her professional instincts engaging in ways she hadn't expected. She had spent her entire career helping people discover their best selves, finding ways to enhance natural beauty rather than mask it. The conversation she was overhearing felt familiar. It was the same defeated tone she'd heard from clients who insisted they could never look good, who had given up before even trying. The cultural analysis is clear, Dr. Martinez continued, pulling up new displays. Humans are seen as competent but unremarkable. Every other species has something that sets them apart. Advanced technology, unique art forms, specialized knowledge. We're generalists in a galaxy that values specialists. Ambassador Vance's shoulders sagged slightly. The Harmony Station meeting may be our last chance. If we can't demonstrate unique value to the Congress representatives there, humanity's petition for representation will likely be denied permanently. Maya stepped away from the doorway, her mind racing. Sarah was watching her with concern, clearly worried about how the newly awakened woman was processing this information about humanity's precarious position. These Harmony Station beings, Maya said suddenly. The crystalline ones. You said they communicate through light frequencies? That's right, Sarah confirmed. The resonance species. They're incredibly beautiful, but completely alien. Their society is based on harmonic frequencies. They literally sing to each other using light patterns. And the other species that will be at this meeting? Sarah pulled up information on her tablet. Let's see. Representatives from the Bloom Collective. As I mentioned, they're the ones with the flower ships. The Vorthak will be there, with their sensory hair tentacles. Oh, and the Prism Lords from the Refraction Worlds. They're fascinating. Their bodies are semi-transparent, and they can control how light passes through them. With each description, Maya felt her excitement growing. Every species Sarah mentioned presented a unique challenge, a different approach to beauty and self-expression. The possibilities were endless. Sarah, Maya said, her voice taking on the confident tone that had once convinced nervous brides and celebrity clients to trust her with their most important looks. I need to understand something. In all the time humans have been part of galactic society, has anyone ever offered beauty services to other species? Beauty services? Sarah looked confused. Maya, I don't think you understand. These aren't humans with different fashion sense. These are completely different biological systems. The resonants don't even have hair, in any sense we'd recognize. But they do have an aesthetic sense, Maya pressed. You said they're focused on harmony, on light patterns. That's still about appearance, about creating something beautiful. Well, yes, but... And the Bloom Collective is specifically described as artistic and focused on aesthetics. True, but Maya, we're talking about beings whose idea of beauty might be completely incomprehensible to humans. Their standards could be based on chemical compositions we can't even detect, or mathematical relationships that require advanced computation to appreciate. Maya smiled again, and this time there was something almost predatory about it, the expression of a professional who had just spotted the perfect challenge. Sarah, in my 20 years of doing hair on Earth, do you know what I learned? What? Everyone, and I mean everyone, wants to feel beautiful. They might not know how to achieve it. They might have given up trying. They might even insist they don't care. But deep down, every living being wants to look in a mirror and feel good about what they see. Sarah stared at her, clearly struggling to process this perspective. But these aren't humans looking in human mirrors. Exactly. Maya's enthusiasm was growing. That's what makes it interesting. I spent my career working with every hair type, every face shape, every color combination you could imagine. I learned to see beauty in ways other people missed. And now? She gestured toward the observation deck, where alien ships drifted like living art pieces. Now I get to discover entirely new forms of beauty. They were interrupted by a commotion in the corridor. A group of Vorthak had just boarded the ship, their tall frames moving with fluid grace. Maya watched in fascination as their hair tentacles moved independently, some reaching out to explore the corridor walls while others seemed to be communicating with each other through subtle movements. But what caught Maya's attention wasn't the tentacles themselves. It was the way the humans nearby reacted. They stepped back, giving the Vorthak plenty of space, their body language conveying a mixture of respect and unease. The cultural divide was obvious and profound. One of the Vorthak noticed the humans and approached the group, its tentacles moving in what Maya was beginning to recognize as patterns. When it spoke, the translation came through the ship's communication system in a flat, mechanical voice that stripped away any nuance or emotion. Greetings, human colleagues. We seek the location of Ambassador Vance for preliminary discussions. Commander Torres stepped forward, his posture stiff and formal. Of course, honored guest. The ambassador is in briefing room 7. Shall I escort you there? The Vorthak's tentacles shifted again, and Maya found herself studying the movement with the same intensity she once applied to studying how light fell across different hair textures. There was definitely meaning in those patterns, layers of communication that the translation system wasn't capturing. That would be acceptable, the Vorthak replied through the translator. As the group moved away, Maya noticed something that everyone else seemed to miss. Several of the Vorthak's tentacles kept drifting toward its reflection in the polished corridor walls, adjusting position as if checking its appearance. It was a subtle behavior, almost unconscious, but Maya recognized it immediately. Sarah, she said quietly, that Vorthak was checking itself out. What? In the reflective surfaces. Its tentacles kept moving to catch the reflection, adjusting position. That's vanity, pure and simple. Sarah looked skeptical. Maya, you're reading human behaviors into alien actions. Those tentacles serve sensory functions we don't understand. Maybe, Maya conceded, but I've seen that exact behavior 10,000 times in my salon. That's what people do when they're aware of their appearance and want to make sure they look good. She watched the Vorthak disappear around a corner, its tentacles still moving in those flowing hypnotic patterns. Maya was beginning to see something that others missed. These weren't just functional appendages. They were expressive, graceful, beautiful in their own way. But was the Vorthak aware of that beauty? Did its species have concepts of attractive versus unattractive tentacle arrangements? I need to learn more about these species, Maya said, her mind already forming plans. Not just their biology or their technology, their aesthetics, what they consider beautiful, how they express personal style, what makes them feel confident. Maya, I'm not sure that's a good idea. These diplomatic meetings are incredibly delicate. Humans are already seen as presumptuous for even requesting Congress representation. If you somehow offended one of these species by misunderstanding their aesthetic values, who said anything about offending them? Maya grinned. I'm talking about helping them look fabulous, Before Sarah could respond, another announcement echoed through the ship. This time, the voice belonged to Ambassador Vance herself, and the tension in her tone was unmistakable. All human personnel, please note that our arrival at Harmony Station has been moved up by 3 hours. Preliminary negotiations will begin immediately upon docking. This represents a critical opportunity for humanity's future in galactic society. All non-essential personnel are reminded to maintain respectful distance from our diplomatic guests. Maya felt a familiar surge of energy, the same feeling she'd experienced before every major fashion show or celebrity event she'd worked on Earth. It was the moment when everything came together: the pressure, the challenge, the opportunity to create something extraordinary. "Sarah," she said, her voice taking on the decisive tone that had once reorganized entire salon schedules, "I need to get to that station." "Maya, you're not part of the diplomatic mission. You're a civilian. And frankly, you've been awake for less than 6 hours. You don't understand the complexities of—" "I understand that humanity needs something unique to offer," Maya interrupted. "And I understand that every species we've encountered has some form of aesthetic expression. That's my specialty." Sarah shook her head. "Even if that were true, there's no way Ambassador Vance would allow an unauthorized civilian to participate in these negotiations." Maya's smile turned mischievous. "Who said anything about asking permission?" Over the next 2 hours, as the celestial dawn approached Harmony Station, Maya embarked on the most intensive crash course of her life. She borrowed Sarah's tablet and immersed herself in every available database entry about the alien species they would encounter. The resonances were indeed fascinating. Their crystalline bodies could control light refraction, creating patterns that served as both communication and artistic expression. But Maya noticed something interesting in the cultural notes. There were references to harmonic discord, situations where a resonance individual's light patterns became jumbled or unclear. It was described as a source of social embarrassment. "They can have bad hair days," Maya murmured to herself, scrolling through the information. "Or bad light days anyway." The Bloom Collective entry was even more intriguing. These beings were essentially mobile plants, their appearance changing with seasons, mood, and environmental factors. The database noted that younger bloom individuals often struggled with wildness in their foliage, while older ones sometimes suffered from dimming of their natural bioluminescence. The Vorthak information confirmed Maya's suspicions. Their tentacle hair wasn't just functional, it was also highly expressive. Different patterns conveyed emotions, social status, and even artistic preferences. The database mentioned that Vorthak society had complex etiquette around tentacle arrangements, with certain patterns considered formal or informal, attractive or crude. But it was the entry on the Prism Lords that made Maya sit up straight. These semi-transparent beings could indeed control light passage through their bodies, but the database noted significant individual variation in this ability. Some Prism Lords were described as radiant, while others were characterized as having muddy refractions or unclear depth. They have beautiful people and plain people, Maya realized, just like every species. She was so absorbed in her research that she barely noticed the ship docking with Harmony Station. It wasn't until Sarah returned to find her still hunched over the tablet that Maya realized how much time had passed. "We've arrived," Sarah announced. "And Maya, I have to say, I'm impressed by your dedication to learning about these cultures. But the diplomatic team is about to disembark, and I really think you should stay on the ship." Maya looked up from the tablet, her eyes bright with excitement and determination. "Sarah, I've figured something out. Each of these species has individuals who struggle with their appearance. The databases are full of references to aesthetic problems: discord, dimming, muddy refractions, tentacle wildness. But nobody seems to have thought of these as problems that could be solved." "Because they're probably not problems in the way you're thinking of them," Sarah said gently. "These might be natural variations or cultural concepts we don't understand." "Maybe," Maya conceded. "But what if they're not? What if some of these beings look in whatever they use for mirrors and wish they looked different? What if they feel self-conscious about their appearance the same way humans do?" Sarah was quiet for a moment, clearly struggling with the concept. "Even if that were true, Maya, you don't have the knowledge or tools to help alien beings with their appearance. Your expertise is with human hair, and human beauty standards. Maya stood up, stretching muscles that were still adjusting to being awake after 2 centuries. You're right that I don't have the knowledge yet, but I have something else. I have the eye. I can see beauty and potential in ways other people miss. That skill doesn't depend on the specific biology involved. Through the docking bay windows, they could see Harmony Station stretching out before them. The structure was unlike anything Maya had ever imagined, a vast complex that seemed to be part architecture, part living organism. Crystalline formations grew alongside metallic frameworks, while sections of the station pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. It's beautiful, Maya breathed. It's the most advanced diplomatic facility in this sector, Sarah agreed. Representatives from dozens of species meet here regularly. The station itself is a collaboration between multiple civilizations, each section designed to accommodate different environmental needs. Maya watched as the first diplomatic shuttle departed the celestial dawn, carrying Ambassador Vance and her team toward the station. Through the shuttle's window, she could see the tense faces of the human delegation, the weight of their species' future pressing down on them. They're going to fail, Maya said quietly. Maya, that's not... No, look at them. They're defeated before they even start. They're going into those negotiations assuming they have nothing unique to offer, and that attitude is going to come across in everything they say and do. Sarah couldn't argue with that observation. The human delegation did indeed look like people attending their own funeral, rather than a potentially historic opportunity. But what if they were wrong? Maya continued. What if humanity does have something unique to offer, something that no other species has thought of? Like what? Maya turned away from the window, her expression serious. Like the ability to see beauty across species lines. Like the knowledge that appearance and confidence are connected in ways that go deeper than biology? Like the understanding that everyone, every being, deserves to feel good about how they look. She grabbed Sarah's arm, her excitement building. Sarah, what if the reason humans are good at adapting isn't just about surviving in harsh conditions? What if it's because we're naturally good at seeing potential in unexpected places? Before Sarah could respond, Maya was moving toward the docking bay, her stride purposeful and determined. I need to get to that station. Maya, wait! Sarah hurried after her. Even if I thought this was a good idea, which I don't, you can't just walk onto a diplomatic station. There are security protocols, clearance requirements. Then help me figure out how to get around them, Maya said, stopping suddenly and turning to face Sarah. Or better yet, help me get legitimate access. How would I possibly do that? Maya's smile was pure determination. You're a doctor on a diplomatic mission. There have to be medical personnel on the station. Right? People responsible for ensuring the health and safety of all these different species. Sarah blinked, clearly seeing where this was going. Maya, no, I can't just claim your medical personnel. Not medical personnel, Maya corrected. A specialist consultant. Someone brought in to address specific health and wellness issues affecting the human delegation. What health and wellness issues? Morale, Maya said simply. Confidence. The psychological factors that affect diplomatic performance. Look at our people, Sarah. They look defeated. That's not going to help them negotiate effectively. Sarah stared at her, clearly torn between professional responsibility and growing curiosity about Maya's unconventional approach. That's actually not completely unreasonable. Diplomatic teams do sometimes bring in specialists to address psychological factors. And what's the worst that could happen? Maya pressed. I observe a few meetings, maybe have some conversations with our people about confidence and presentation. If I'm wrong about everything else, at least I might help our delegation feel better about themselves. Sarah was wavering, and Maya could sense it. She had spent years reading people, understanding what motivated them, finding the right words to help them take risks they were afraid to take. Sarah, you've seen how other species look at humans. We're tolerated, but we're not respected. Don't you want to change that? Of course I do, Sarah admitted. But Maya, these aren't makeovers for nervous prom dates. These are complex interspecies relationships with thousands of years of history and protocol. Every relationship starts with how people see each other, Maya replied. And first impressions matter, whether you're human or crystalline or covered in sensory tentacles. A new group of shuttles was departing the ship now, carrying supplies and additional support staff to the station. Maya watched them go, calculating her chances of finding a way aboard one of the remaining transports. "Look," she said finally, "I'm going to get to that station one way or another. The question is whether you're going to help me do it safely and legitimately, or whether I'm going to have to improvise." Sarah groaned, recognizing the tone of someone who had made up her mind completely. "You're really going to do this, aren't you?" "I have to," Maya said simply. "Sarah, I've been asleep for 200 years. I woke up to discover that my entire world is gone, that humanity is struggling to find its place in a galaxy full of wonders I never could have imagined. I could spend the rest of my life feeling sorry for myself, or I could find a way to help. By doing hair for aliens, by helping beings feel confident and beautiful," Maya corrected, "by finding ways to bridge the gap between species through something as universal as the desire to look good, by giving humanity something unique to offer the galaxy." Sarah was quiet for a long moment, studying Maya's face. Finally, she sighed deeply. "If I do this, and I'm not saying I will, but if I do this, you have to promise me you'll be careful. No taking risks with alien biology, no making assumptions about cultural practices you don't understand." "I promise," Maya said immediately. "And no unauthorized contact with alien dignitaries without proper diplomatic supervision." "Agreed. And if Ambassador Vance orders you to return to the ship, you do it immediately. No arguments." "Deal." Sarah shook her head, clearly questioning her own judgment. "I can't believe I'm about to do this, but I'll see if I can get you listed as a psychological wellness consultant for the human delegation. That might get you onto the station. But Maya, once you're there, you're on your own." Maya's grin was radiant. "Sarah, trust me. I've got this." As Sarah hurried off to make the necessary arrangements, Maya returned to the observation deck for one last look at Harmony Station. The structure seemed even more impressive up close, its various sections clearly designed by different species but somehow forming a cohesive whole. It was a testament to what could be achieved when different civilizations worked together. Soon she would be walking those corridors, meeting beings from across the galaxy, and hopefully discovering that beauty really was universal. The challenge ahead was unlike anything she had ever faced, but Maya felt the same thrill she had always experienced when a client sat down in her chair and said, "I don't know what to do with myself." The galaxy was about to become her biggest client yet. The corridors of Harmony Station buzzed with activity as beings from dozens of worlds moved through the crystalline passages. Maya followed Dr. Kim through security checkpoints, her newly acquired consultant credentials allowing her access to areas most civilians never saw. The station's architecture seemed to shift and flow around them, adapting to accommodate the different environmental needs of its diverse occupants. "Remember," Sarah whispered as they approached the main diplomatic wing, "you're here as a psychological wellness consultant. That means you observe, you listen, and you help our people feel more confident. Nothing more." Maya nodded, but her attention was already captured by the incredible diversity surrounding them. A group of prism lords moved past like living rainbows, their semi-transparent bodies creating cascading light patterns with each step. Behind them, several Bloom Collective representatives swayed gently, their bioluminescent foliage pulsing in rhythms that seemed almost musical. The human delegation had been assigned quarters in Section C, an area designed primarily for carbon-based life forms with standard atmospheric requirements. As they approached the human wing, Maya could hear familiar voices through the partially open doors. Ambassador Vance was speaking with her team, and the exhaustion in her voice was unmistakable. "The preliminary discussions couldn't have gone worse," Ambassador Vance was saying. The resonance representative made it clear that they see human requests for representation as presumptuous. The Bloom Collective was polite, but dismissive. "And the Vorthak?" She paused, clearly struggling with diplomatic language. "The Vorthak seemed genuinely confused about why we think we deserve a seat at the galactic table." Maya peered through the doorway to see the human delegation gathered around a holographic conference table. Every face showed the same expression of defeat and frustration. Commander Torres was slumped in his chair, while Dr. Martinez stared blankly at data displays showing humanity's various unsuccessful proposals. We've offered agricultural expertise, mining capabilities, even our adaptability as a species, Dr. Martinez said flatly. None of it matters. Every specialty we claim, 3 other species do better. What about our cultural contributions? Suggested Lieutenant Harris, a young woman whose optimism seemed forced. Music, literature, visual arts? Ambassador Vance shook her head. The Harmony species have been creating symphonies with pure light for 50 millennia. The Dreamweavers paint with emotions themselves. How do we compete with civilizations that have had thousands of years to perfect their arts? Maya felt that familiar stirring, the same sensation she had experienced whenever faced with a seemingly impossible challenge. She had built her reputation on taking the clients other stylists avoided, finding beauty in the most difficult situations. This felt exactly the same, just on a galactic scale. "Sarah," she whispered, "I need to walk around the station, see how different species interact, observe their social dynamics." "Maya, you're supposed to be helping our people with confidence issues." "I am," Maya replied. "But first I need to understand what we're really dealing with here." Before Sarah could object, Maya slipped away from the human quarters and began exploring the station's main social areas. The central plaza was a massive open space where multiple environmental zones met and blended. Here, beings from across the galaxy mingled in what appeared to be informal diplomatic gatherings. Maya positioned herself near a fountain that seemed to be made of liquid light, studying the interactions around her. What she saw confirmed her growing suspicions. Despite the incredible diversity of species, certain behaviors remained remarkably consistent. Beings preened, adjusted their appearance, and displayed clear signs of self-consciousness about how they looked. A young Vorthok stood near the fountain's edge, its hair tentacles moving in nervous patterns as it attempted to approach a group of older members of its species. Maya watched as it repeatedly adjusted its tentacle arrangements, clearly trying to achieve a configuration that would make a good impression. When the tentacles wouldn't cooperate, falling into what appeared to be an awkward tangle, the young Vorthok's entire posture shifted to one of embarrassment. "Fascinating," Maya murmured to herself. She had seen the exact same behavior countless times in her salon when clients struggled with uncooperative hair before important events. Nearby, a prism lord was experiencing what could only be described as a bad refraction day. Its usually clear body appeared cloudy and confused, the light patterns passing through it creating muddy, unclear displays instead of the brilliant rainbows Maya had seen from other members of the species. The being stood apart from its colleagues, clearly self-conscious about its appearance. But it was the group of Bloom Collective representatives that really caught Maya's attention. These plant-like beings were gathered in what appeared to be a support circle, their bioluminescent patterns dim and irregular. As Maya moved closer, she could hear their conversation through the station's translation system. "The dimming season affects us all," one was saying, its voice carrying notes of resignation. "Perhaps we should not attend the formal presentations looking so faded." "The younger species will not understand," another agreed. "They see us now and think we are always so dull, so unremarkable." Maya's professional instincts kicked into overdrive. These beings were struggling with exactly the kind of confidence issues she had spent her career addressing. The specific biology might be different, but the underlying problem was universal. They didn't feel good about how they looked, and it was affecting their self-confidence in important social situations. She approached the group slowly, her movements careful and non-threatening. "Excuse me," she said, allowing the translation system to convey her words. "I couldn't help but overhear. I'm Maya, a specialist in appearance and confidence enhancement. Would you be willing to talk with me about what you're experiencing?" The Bloom Collective beings turned toward her with expressions that seemed surprised but cautiously interested. The one who had spoken first, whose foliage showed streaks of brown among what should have been vibrant greens, tilted its head in a gesture Maya was learning to recognize as curiosity. "You are human," it observed. "We are told humans have limited understanding of aesthetic variations in other species." "That's true," Maya admitted. "But I have extensive experience with the connection between appearance and confidence. And from what I'm observing, That connection exists across species lines. You believe you can help with dimming season symptoms? Another bloom asked, its tone skeptical but hopeful. Maya studied the group carefully, her trained eye taking in details others might miss. The dimming wasn't uniform across their foliage. Certain areas retained more vibrant coloring, while others had faded almost completely. It reminded her of highlighting techniques she had used to address uneven hair color, working with natural patterns rather than against them. "May I ask what causes the dimming?" she said carefully. "Seasonal biochemical changes," the first bloom explained. "As we age, our ability to maintain consistent bioluminescence decreases. During certain cycles, we lose vibrancy in irregular patterns. It is natural, but aesthetically challenging." Maya nodded thoughtfully. What if the irregularity could be turned into an advantage? What if instead of seeing the dimming as something to hide, we could work with the patterns to create intentional designs? The bloom beings exchanged glances, their remaining bright patches flickering with what Maya hoped was interest rather than offense. "Intentional designs?" one asked. "Where I come from, we had techniques for working with natural hair color variations," Maya explained. "Instead of trying to make everything uniform, skilled stylists learned to enhance the natural patterns, creating looks that were more interesting than solid colors could ever be." She gestured toward the being with the brown streaks. "Those darker areas in your foliage create natural depth and dimension. What if we could encourage that contrast, make it look deliberate and artistic rather than random?" "You speak of manipulating our natural biology," another bloom said, sounding uncertain. "Not manipulating," Maya corrected quickly. "Enhancing. Working with what's already there to bring out its best potential." The group was quiet for a moment, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing in what Maya was beginning to recognize as thoughtful consideration. Finally, the first speaker addressed her again. "Human Maya, your concepts are intriguing, but we do not understand how such enhancements could be achieved with our biology." Maya smiled, feeling the familiar thrill of a new challenge. "That's what I'm hoping to figure out. Would you be willing to let me study your natural patterns? I promise not to do anything that could harm you, but I'd like to understand how your bioluminescence works." The bloom beings conferred among themselves in rapid light patterns that the translation system couldn't interpret. Finally, they reached some kind of consensus. "We will allow observation," their spokesperson announced, "but we must warn you that many have tried to address dimming season effects. The Harmony species, with their advanced biotechnology, declared the problem unsolvable without genetic modification." "Sometimes," Maya said with a grin, "the solution isn't about advanced technology. Sometimes it's about seeing familiar problems from a completely new angle." Over the next several hours, Maya conducted what could only be described as the most unusual consultation of her career. The Bloom Collective beings allowed her to study their bioluminescent patterns using simple tools borrowed from the station's medical bay. What she discovered was both fascinating and familiar. The dimming wasn't truly random. Like many biological processes, it followed subtle patterns related to nutrient flow, light absorption, and cellular activity. The areas that maintained vibrant color were those with optimal circulation and health, while the dimmed areas represented temporary reductions in cellular efficiency. "It's like blood flow to hair follicles," Maya explained to Sarah, who had found her in one of the station's observation lounges surrounded by holographic displays of bloom biology. "When circulation is restricted, hair becomes dull and lifeless. When it's optimal, hair shines." "Maya, please tell me you're not planning to give aliens a scalp massage," Sarah said, though her tone suggested more curiosity than disapproval. "Not exactly," Maya replied, studying the patterns more closely. "But look at this." She highlighted sections of the holographic display. The bloom biology includes a network of fluid channels that carry nutrients and energy throughout their foliage. During dimming season, flow through certain channels becomes restricted. "So you're thinking about improving circulation?" Among other things. Maya pulled up additional data, but here's the really interesting part. The restricted flow creates natural boundaries between bright and dim areas. Instead of fighting those boundaries, what if we could work with them? She began sketching on a tablet, her movements quick and confident. "Look, if we could temporarily redirect some of the energy flow, We could create intentional patterns, bands of bright and dim that look designed rather than accidental. Sarah studied the sketches with growing amazement. Maya, this is actually scientifically sound. You're talking about redirecting biochemical processes to create aesthetic effects. It's not that different from using chemical treatments to create highlights in human hair, Maya said. The biology is different, but the principle is the same. Work with natural processes to achieve controlled results. But how would you actually redirect their energy flow? Maya grinned. That's where it gets interesting. The bloom beings have some conscious control over their bioluminescence. They can brighten or dim voluntarily, but only in general terms. What if they could learn to control it more precisely? Like muscle control exercises. Exactly. Combined with some external techniques to encourage flow in specific directions. Sarah shook her head in wonder. Maya, if this actually works, you'll have invented an entirely new field, interspecies aesthetic enhancement. Before Maya could respond, they were interrupted by a commotion in the corridor outside. Voices carried through the open doorway, and Maya recognized Ambassador Vance's tone of barely controlled frustration. I don't understand what went wrong, the ambassador was saying. The presentation was technically perfect. Our data was accurate, our proposals were reasonable. The problem wasn't the content, replied Dr. Martinez. It was the reception. You could see it in their expressions, their body language. They weren't taking us seriously. Maya exchanged glances with Sarah, then moved toward the doorway to listen more carefully. The resonance representative actually seemed amused when we discussed human cultural contributions, Commander Torres was saying, like we were children claiming to have invented art. And the Vorthak delegation barely maintained polite attention, Lieutenant Harris added. I could see their tentacles moving in what I'm pretty sure were dismissive patterns. Maya felt a surge of anger on behalf of her species, but also a growing sense of opportunity. She stepped into the corridor, drawing the attention of the human delegation. Ambassador Vance, she said formally. I'm Maya Chen, the psychological wellness consultant Dr. Kim brought aboard. I've been observing the social dynamics here on the station, and I think I understand what's happening. Ambassador Vance looked tired and frustrated, but she gestured for Maya to continue. The other species aren't dismissing human capabilities because they think we're technically inferior, Maya said. They're dismissing us because we look defeated, because we're presenting ourselves as supplicants begging for acceptance rather than equals offering valuable contributions. Maya, Sarah warned quietly, recognizing the building intensity in her voice. No, this is important, Maya continued, addressing the entire delegation. Every species here struggles with appearance and confidence issues. I've seen it throughout the station. But instead of hiding those struggles, or apologizing for them, they find ways to work with them, to turn them into strengths. Ambassador Vance looked skeptical. Ms. Chen, while I appreciate your perspective on confidence, these negotiations involve complex political and economic factors that go far beyond appearance. Do they? Maya challenged. Because from what I've observed, the species that get respect here are the ones that project confidence and uniqueness. The ones that apologize for their limitations get dismissed. She gestured toward the station's main areas. Right now, there are beings out there struggling with appearance issues that affect their confidence in these same negotiations. The Bloom Collective is dealing with dimming season effects. Young Vorthak are struggling with tentacle control. Prism Lords are experiencing refraction difficulties. And? Commander Torres asked. And I think I can help them, Maya said simply. I think I can solve problems that their own advanced civilizations consider unsolvable. Not through better technology, but through a completely different approach to beauty and self-confidence. The delegation stared at her in stunned silence. Finally, Dr. Martinez spoke up. Maya, even if that were possible, how would helping other species with cosmetic issues benefit humanity's position? Maya smiled, the expression radiating the confidence that had once convinced Hollywood celebrities to trust her with their most important looks. Because, she said, it would prove that humans have something unique to offer the galaxy. Not just technical skills or adaptability, but a completely new way of thinking about beauty, confidence, and self-expression. A way of seeing potential that other species miss. Ambassador Vance was quiet for a long moment, clearly wrestling with the implications. Ms. Chen, Are you suggesting that humanity's unique contribution to galactic civilization is cosmetic services? I'm suggesting that humanity's unique contribution is the ability to help other beings feel confident and beautiful, Maya corrected. To see beauty across species lines and find ways to enhance it. To understand that appearance and confidence are connected in ways that go deeper than biology. That's, Lieutenant Harris began, then stopped, clearly struggling to process the concept. That's either brilliant or completely insane, Commander Torres finished. Maybe both, Maya admitted. But consider this. Every other species here has been offering the galaxy things it already has. Better technology, more efficient methods, superior knowledge. We're the only ones offering something genuinely new. Sarah stepped forward, her medical training giving weight to her words. Actually, Maya might be onto something. The psychological benefits of improved self-image are well documented across human populations. If similar effects exist in other species, it could represent a genuinely unique human contribution to galactic society, Dr. Martinez finished, his tone shifting from skeptical to thoughtful. Ambassador Vance looked around at her team, then back at Maya. Ms. Chen, even if your theory is correct, we have less than 18 hours before the final presentations. How exactly do you propose to prove that humans can provide these aesthetic enhancement services? Maya's grin was pure determination. Give me access to the beings who are struggling with appearance issues. Let me show them what human creativity can accomplish. And then let's see if confidence really is universal. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of activity unlike anything Harmony Station had ever seen. Maya had convinced Ambassador Vance to allow her a chance to prove her theory, and word had spread through the station's diplomatic community with remarkable speed. The concept of a human offering aesthetic enhancement services to other species was so unprecedented that beings came to observe out of pure curiosity. Maya's first client was the young Vorthak she had noticed by the fountain. The being's tentacle hair had been causing embarrassment for weeks, refusing to hold the formal patterns expected in diplomatic settings. Maya studied the tentacle structure for nearly an hour, working with station medical personnel to understand the underlying muscle and nerve systems. Your tentacles aren't cooperating because you're trying to force them into patterns that don't match your natural movement preferences, Maya explained through the translation system. It's like trying to style curly hair straight every day. You'll get better results working with your natural tendencies. She developed a series of exercises designed to strengthen the young Vorthak's control over specific tentacle groups, combined with techniques for encouraging natural curl patterns that could be arranged into attractive but achievable configurations. The results were visible within hours. I have never seen my tentacles hold formal arrangements so easily, the young Vorthak said, its voice conveying amazement even through the mechanical translation. The patterns feel natural rather than forced. News of the success spread quickly, and Maya found herself with a waiting list of clients from multiple species. The Prism Lord with refraction difficulties proved to be an even more interesting challenge. Maya discovered that the cloudiness in its body was caused by internal stress that affected the alignment of crystalline structures. Working with the station's meditation specialists, she developed relaxation techniques specifically designed for crystalline biology. The human approach is unlike anything we have attempted, the Prism Lord reported after its session. Rather than trying to force clarity through external means, you helped me achieve it from within. The refractions are now more brilliant than they have been in years. But it was her work with the Bloom Collective that truly demonstrated the revolutionary nature of Maya's approach. Using the energy flow redirection techniques she had theorized, combined with voluntary control exercises, Maya helped the dimming season sufferers create intentional patterns that turned their biological limitation into an artistic advantage. The irregular lighting now appears to be deliberate design, their spokesperson reported to an increasingly interested audience of diplomatic observers. What was once a source of shame has become a point of pride. By the time the final diplomatic presentations began, word of Maya's successes had reached every delegation on the station. The beings she had worked with moved with new confidence, their improved appearance translating directly into enhanced self-assurance in social situations. But the real test came when Ambassador Vance stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Congress to make humanity's final case for representation. Honored delegates, she began, her own confidence visibly boosted by the excitement surrounding Maya's work. Humanity requests representation in the Galactic Congress, not because we can do what you already do better, but because we can do something none of you have thought to attempt. She gestured to the gallery where Maya's recent clients sat, their transformed appearances serving as living testimony to human innovation. We offer the galaxy a new understanding of beauty, confidence, and self-expression that transcends species boundaries. We offer the ability to help every being feel good about how they look, regardless of their biology or cultural background. The chamber was silent as delegates absorbed this unprecedented proposal. Finally, the resident's representative spoke, its crystalline voice carrying harmonics that suggested deep thought. Human delegation, you claim to offer aesthetic enhancement across species lines. This seems to violate basic principles of biological compatibility. Maya rose from her seat in the gallery, having been given permission to address questions directly. Honored representative, it's true that the specific techniques must be adapted for each species, but the underlying principles are universal. Every being wants to feel confident about their appearance, and confidence affects performance in all social situations, including diplomatic ones. You suggest that appearance affects diplomatic effectiveness? The Vorthak delegate asked, its tentacles moving in patterns. Maya now recognized as intense interest. I suggest that confidence affects diplomatic effectiveness, Maya corrected, and confidence is strongly connected to how individuals feel about their appearance. The beings I've worked with over the past day haven't just improved how they look. They've improved how they feel about themselves. The young Vorthak Maya had helped stood up in the gallery, its tentacles now arranged in a pattern that was both formally appropriate and naturally graceful. The human speaks truth, it announced. My enhancement has affected not just my appearance but my ability to communicate effectively with colleagues and superiors. Similar testimonials came from the Prism Lord and the Bloom Collective representatives. Each described not just physical improvements but increased confidence, better social interactions, and enhanced professional effectiveness. The Galactic Congress delegates conferred among themselves in a mixture of languages and communication methods that the translation system struggled to follow. Finally, the senior representative, a being from the ancient Harmony civilization, spoke for the group. Human delegation, your proposal is unprecedented in congressional history. No species has ever requested representation based on aesthetic services. Maya felt her heart sink, interpreting the statement as a rejection. However, the representative continued, the demonstrated effectiveness of these services, and their apparent universality across species lines, suggests a genuinely unique contribution to galactic civilization. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs from delegations throughout the gallery. The Congress recognizes that beauty and confidence are indeed universal concerns, and that human intuitive approaches to these challenges represent valuable innovation. We therefore grant humanity provisional representation in the Galactic Congress, with full review to occur after one standard year of service. The human delegation sat in stunned silence for several seconds before the reality of their success sank in. Humanity had achieved what they had thought impossible, not through superior technology or resources, but through Maya's revolutionary understanding that beauty and confidence were truly universal languages. As celebrations began among the human delegation, Maya found herself surrounded by beings from dozens of species, all requesting appointments for aesthetic consultations. The young human woman who had awakened from cryogenic sleep just days earlier had become the galaxy's first interspecies beauty specialist. So, Sarah said, finding Maya in the crowd of admirers, how does it feel to have given humanity its place in galactic civilization? Maya smiled, watching as the various species mingled with new confidence, their enhanced appearances translating into improved social interactions throughout the chamber. It feels like the beginning, she said. I've got a whole galaxy of clients now, and each one is going to teach me something new about beauty. Ambassador Vance approached them, her expression mixing gratitude with continuing amazement at the day's unprecedented events. Miss Chen, she said formally, on behalf of humanity, I want to thank you for achieving what our best diplomatic minds couldn't accomplish. You did the real work, Maya replied. I just helped everyone feel more confident about doing it. As the celebrations continued around them, Maya looked out through the station's massive viewports at the ships, from dozens of worlds docked nearby. Each one represented a species with its own concepts of beauty, its own aesthetic challenges, its own potential for transformation. She had awakened from cryogenic sleep to find humanity struggling to prove its worth to the galaxy. Now, she had not only secured their place among the stars, but opened up entirely new possibilities for interspecies cooperation and understanding. The galaxy was about to become a much more beautiful place. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.